Yeah. So, very good evening to all of you. My name is Rushan Khan, and this is supposed to be a very short overview about the whole DSC lead application process. So, we'll be talking about what are the qualities that are preferred in a GDSC lead. What are the questions which are most probable to appear on the interview? Like, what are the things? How should you tackle the essays in your application form and things like that. So I think I will begin by talking about the application form. So, mm, so the application form will be accessible to you guys if you go onto the website that I mentioned in my initial message. So that website starts with GDSC Leads, I think. So you can open the WhatsApp group and go onto that website. So there would be a blue button called Apply Now. So when you click on that button, you would be redirected to a website called gdsc.advoku. So basically that is your whole application portal. So first you'd have to enter some personal details about yourself. You'll have that is a place where you will be entering the your nomination code if you have received any, and they will also be asking you links to your social media profiles. So basically what they want to check here is that the person active on social media platforms. So if you have a personal portfolio, let's say, or you are a content creator, you post often on social media platforms, then all that is going to work in your favor. So yeah, and also one thing about the nomination code is that to those who have received it, please don't share it with any of your friends, because it's not like that. Though all of those who have the nomination code will be getting an advantage, it's not like that. Only the first three people who submit their application with their nomination code will be getting a slight advantage. So once you fill in your application form, you will be redirected to a page where you will have to write 3 essays, and you have to enter a video application. So basically the 3 essays are the essays which were asked to me was uh, what were the motivations uh, which I had for starting a club in my own university. That was one. Another one was one second. Yeah. So another one was what was my favorite technology and why was it my favorite. And the other one was what is one problem which you solved in your community. So basically, the motivation question, I tackled it in a problem solving approach. So first I mentioned all of the problems which I noticed in my university, in the students of my university, and then I mentioned the solutions to them, like how I would solve those things through the medium of a GDSC. So yeah, that is how I handle the motivations essay. And also the essays aren't very long. I think it was at my time it was 250 words. So I think it would be the same for you guys too. So yeah, although I would really recommend that you uh, mention the problems that you personally have noticed and how you personally would solve those problems. So yeah, so the technology question I wrote about at that time, my favorite technology was Node.js. So I wrote about Node.js. I mentioned how it uses Google's V8 JavaScript engine that made it very fast, how it was a way to run JavaScript outside the browser and things like that. Also, am I audible, guys? I hope that it's not like that I'm not audible.
No, yes, you're
Yes.
audible.
Okay, okay. So yeah, and also the community problem which I solved was a very intimate problem, so I won't be mentioning it right now. But the model which I followed in while writing that essay was called the SAR model, which is situation action result. So I mentioned the situation, what was the situation, and what were my observations, what action did I take, keeping in mind the keeping in mind the situation, and what was the result of the action. So I would recommend that uh, wherever possible you guys follow specific precise models too, because that way the interviewer is able to understand clearly that what was your contribution, and also the interviewer gets a taste of your thought process. So that is also quite something to express. So the next is video application. So the video application is at my time it was 120 seconds, so you couldn't exceed 120 seconds. So basically I treated it like a statement of purpose. I mentioned something about myself, I introduced myself, I mentioned briefly, I mentioned about my interest, and then I mentioned the problems which I noticed and how I would solve those using a GDSC. So basically it was similar to my motivations essay. Now also one thing about the video application is that you don't have to like edit it too much, or you don't have to push too much sparkles and glitters on it, because yeah, well, if you know video editing and or you have a friend who knows video editing and it won't be a hassle for you, then you can do it. It might weigh in your favor, but it is not really that much required, because my video application was like I just laid down an outline, I turned on my camera, I turned on my mic, and I started speaking, and that was it. So you don't need to put too much effort in your video application. I think what matters most in the application is your message, the message which you are conveying. So yeah, so these are the details about your application. So after you submit your application will go through a process. Someone will review your application. They will be going through your various profiles. They will be checking your online portfolio, your GitHub profile, your LinkedIn profile, and things like that. So, and if they like your application, then they will be calling you in for an interview. So basically how that works is they will be sharing you a link to a Google Calendar, and there you'd have to book slot for your interview. So I think uh, it spans for around 1 or 2 months, so you have plenty of time to select a time and date which you are comfortable with. Although regarding the time, I would recommend to not select a time which is like very late into the night, because time slots like those are available. Like interviews do happen at 11:30 p.m. and 12 a.m., but I wouldn't recommend picking those times, because the interviewer might be tired till that time. Or so basically what happens is that these guys, the employees, take interviews all day, so it might happen that yours would be the last of the day. I hope you get the point. So although it's up to you, but I would recommend not to pick out times which are very late into the night. So the interview is basically to test you on your technical and leadership skills. So a GDSC lead should have competence in at least one domain. So it could be web for you, it could be Android for you, it could be Flutter for you, but you should be well versed with at least one domain. So someone asked the question, what is the last day for submission of the application? So the last date is, I think, 1st of April. You can check on their website, which I mentioned. So first I'll talk about technical skills, how they would assess you on your technical skills. The primary thing which they check for to make sure that you are technically competent is that they check for your projects. So in my interview, they asked me for direct links to my hosted project. So at that time I had some minor projects. I didn't make anything major, but I did document it quite well, and I also had hosted it somewhere, so I had links to share. So basically, and that is also what they want. They directly want to check what you have made. So it will definitely help if you guys have some projects which you have hosted somewhere and you have a URL which you can share with them. So that will make the process a little bit easier. So then after you have shared your projects, they will most probably ask you questions about your projects, like mention one problem which you faced while making the project. So basically, if you think from their perspective, what they want to make sure is that this is the person who has made the project. Like the person hasn't copy pasted the project from somewhere, or he's not sharing someone else's project and things like that. So basically, they want to make sure that it is you who has made the project and not someone else. So and the questions will be also to check that. So as I mentioned, what is one problem that you faced while making the project, and how did you implement this feature, how did you implement that feature, what are the libraries that you use, and things like that. And also, yeah, one thing I would say is that please don't like lie on the interview. Please don't share someone else's project and claim it that it is yours, because interviewers do have ways to find out. And yeah, what happened with my friend's friend was that he was also applying for the GDSC lead. He was also giving an interview, but if I remember correctly, he copy pasted the project from somewhere else, and the interviewer wasn't convinced that it is that person who has made the project. So what the interviewer did was he asked the source code for the project and asked the person to explain the source code line by line. So just to let you know, I don't think this will probably not happen with you guys if you guys are being genuine. But if you are lying and the interviewer thinks that you are lying, so they have ways to make sure that you are not lying basically. So yeah, please don't lie. And also, if you don't come across as genuine, and if you uh, like if your lie gets caught, then it will certainly not help your case, right? So yeah, these are about your projects. uh, so how they will assess your leadership skills is they will ask behavioral questions to you. So basically, they will ask you about your past leadership experiences, and like, did you have any positions of responsibility in the past or things like that. Also, the question which was asked to me was that if I was given the chance to, then how I would shape my GDSC, to which I talked about how I would make it more learning based. So yeah, I answered somewhere along those lines. And also, yeah, one thing to keep in mind is that in my case, it was starting a GDSC from scratch. So I think the questions were catered towards that somewhat. And in your case, it is taking over a pre-established GDSC. So I think you also need to keep this in mind. So the questions might be catered towards that too. So for example, they might ask you like what would you do differently this year, like keeping in mind this year's performance of your GDSC, what you would do differently, or what were some of the problems which you faced. Were you a close part of the GDSC community? Were you actively involved in their events, or were you a part of the core team and things like that. So also, all these questions I'm mentioning, I will be right now I'll be creating a separate channel, and I will be posting some resources which I found useful personally, and some list of probable questions. So actually what happened with me was that my friend my friend, he is in the same batch as me. He is in VIT Bhopal, and he was actually the DSC lead in his second year. So when it was my chance to apply, which was at the end of second year, he helped me a lot. He provided me with a list of questions, and the thing is that those questions were extremely in common with the questions which were asked to me on the actual interview. Also, one thing was that our interviewer was also common. So we were interviewed by Mr. Pradipta Sharma. That was his name. So it might happen that is why the questions are common. But I think that they basically want to check for same things, like for technical and leadership skills. So more or less the questions will be the same, hopefully. So I will be trying to do the same for you guys too. I will be posting a list of probable questions which are likely to appear on the interview. So, yeah, I think that is pretty much all that I wanted to talk about. So, do you guys have any questions regarding the whole process, regarding the interview and things like that? So, question is, if we aren't selected this year, can we apply next year? Yes, surely you can apply as many times as you want. There is no restriction. So, yeah, the only restriction is that the person should have at least 1 year left till graduation, right? So you should have at least 1 year till you are in college. Yeah. So, any more questions? Also, the people who joined in late, please remind me to send you the recording of this, so you might watch it and try to understand. So, any more questions? Does anybody have any more questions? Mm. Yeah, the interviewer, my interview was like, it went very unexpectedly very smoothly, right? The interviewer was very friendly to me. Like, it didn't feel like it was an interview. It felt like a two-way conversation between us. He was very friendly and very professional at the same time. So yeah, that was a very pleasant experience to me, and I hope that the interview is a pleasant experience for you guys too. And also one thing I would like to say is that obviously only one of you will get selected, so no need to feel bad about it. Rather, you should talk with the person who did get selected, and check for positions in the core team, so you can contribute to the community together, right? No need to hold grudges or things like that. uh, so I assume there are no more questions. Are there any more questions, or should we end it, or do you guys want to say something? Well, basically, they release applications at the end of the term of a GDSC. So basically, my term is coming to an end. So they released application. So basically, it is around 8 months. I think it is around 1 year, right? Last year also the applications were released in April. So yeah, it is every year.
Okay. So, hi, this is Harsh.
Yes, Harsh.
Yes, sir. So actually, I joined late. I missed this last leadership skill query. I have query about what will they ask in behavioral questions. Means
Okay.
which type of question might be they ask.
Yeah, so basically they will ask you questions like they will, for example, put you in hypothetical situation, like if given the chance to do so, what will you do with your GDSC? Like my question was that how will I shape my GDSC? To which I answered that I will shape it in more of a learning based environment. So yeah, these are the type of the questions which they will most probably ask. So for example, in my case, as I mentioned, it was establishing a GDSC from scratch. In your case, it is taking over a pre-established GDSC. So they might ask you questions regarding this year's GDSC, like were you involved in the GDSC? How closely were you involved? Were you a part of the core team? Did you participate in the events? What you would do differently? What did you observe? And things like that. Also, they will ask you questions about yourself, right? They might ask you about your interest just to make small talk and things like that.
Okay. So you have experience about the previous GDSC event held in October. So you have experience about that. So can you help with that a little bit?
Which event are you talking about?
Yeah, last one. Might they ask question about this year GDSC?
Yeah.
Means what which type of they will which type of question they will ask probably.
So basically, I think they will ask you about your involvement with the GDSC, like how closely were you involved? Were you a part of the core team? Did you participate in the events? Uh, like if you were leading the GDSC, what you would do differently? And yeah, so basically these type of questions. And also, as I mentioned, you don't need to worry about remembering all these questions. I will be creating a separate channel, and I will be posting some probable questions which are likely to appear on the interview. So you don't need to worry about that. I will be doing this right today, like by today night.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah. So any more questions?
No, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
No problem. So I think since there are no more questions, I think we should close this meet. So all the best to you guys. I hope that GDSC continues next year too. So yeah, okay. Good evening, guys. Bye bye.
Thank you, Priya.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye, sir. Thank you.